public libraries are amazing places that serve everyone in our community. As the Santa Cruz Public Library's nonprofit partner, the Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries support our whole library system through fundraising, volunteer services, and advocacy. Neighborhood Friends chapters provide grassroots support to their local branches. Everyone can be a friend to our libraries. We invite you to learn more about how you can participate. Find us at friendsofsantacruzlibraries.org.
Hi, I'm Denise Ward with the Friends of the Aptos Library, and we're so excited to launch our 9th season of Our Community Reads. So the book selection is really the most important part of the whole process, and you get to be the ones to make the choice. You're about to hear 4 presentations, all of them excellent, and it's up to you to vote for the one that you think is going to resonate best with our community. It sounds easier than it is because all 4 books have so much merit. The challenge is on.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the 2026 Our Community Reads Book Selection Party. I'm Judy Hayer, and I'm excited to introduce a truly inspiring and timely book for our community to read together. Spare Parts by Joshua Davis. At its core, Spare Parts is a powerful, true story of 4 undocumented high school students from Phoenix, Arizona, who take an almost unimaginable challenge. With limited resources, no prior experience, and using only scavenged parts, they build an underwater robot and go on to compete with prestigious institutions like MIT at a national robotics competition. Let me share where the Carl Hayden High School coaches, Freddie and Alan, along with team members Lorenzo, Christian, Oscar, and Luis, arrive with Stinky, their robot, to get their first glimpse of the competition. Around 9 the next morning, the Carl Hayden team rolled Stinky into the UCSB pool reserved for practice. Other teams were scattered around the pool and looked at the newcomers. The robots on display looked like works of art to the Carl Hayden kids. The competitors appeared to have all the things they didn't: glass syntactic foam, machined metal, elaborate control panels, and cool matching outfits. Christian was proud of his robot, but he could see that it looked like a Geo Metro compared to the Lexuses and BMWs around the pool. He had thought that Lorenzo's paint job was nice. Now it just looked clownish. The boys from Carl Hayden shuffled to an unclaimed portion of the pool perimeter. Damn, Lorenzo thought as he caught a glimpse of the MIT team. Their robot featured a large ExxonMobil sticker and was the smallest, most densely instrumented robot in the competition. The group wore matching blue shirts emblazoned with the words MIT ROV team. They were white, and most had brownish blonde hair. To Lorenzo, they looked like the embodiment of power. I've never seen so many white people in one place, he marveled. This is a classic underdog story, but it is so much more. The book speaks to perseverance, ingenuity, and the boundless potential of young people when they're given a chance. It explores themes of immigration, education, systemic barriers, and what it means to pursue dreams in the face of adversity. It is a celebration of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But it's also a call to support every student, regardless of status or background. Here's Joshua Davis sharing his thoughts on Spare Parts.
I think that there's a lot of things that are remarkable about the experiences of these 4 guys and the experiences of the teachers. First of all, the fact that they would decide to enter an underwater robotics contest when they come from a high school that's in the middle of the desert. They didn't even have a swimming pool. So it was a really crazy challenge. And most people would think that you wouldn't even consider such a thing. They had no background in robotics, very little background. They had almost no funding and basically no idea what they were doing. And yet they did it anyway. And so that fundamental decision to do something that sounds crazy to other people is something that I think we could all learn a lot from. I hope that when people read Spare Parts, they will come away understanding the experience of these 4 guys. And that may or may not change their perspective on immigration policy or what it means to be an American, but I want them at least to have had the opportunity to understand somebody else's experience. And I hope that in so doing, that they'll be able to make better decisions about the direction this country should go in.
Joshua Davis doesn't just tell a heartwarming and funny story. He invites us to examine the systems we live in and the quiet power of resilience, mentorship, and community. That's why Spare Parts is a perfect book for Our Community Reads. It brings together readers of all ages and backgrounds. There's even a young readers edition for the youth in our community. Whether you're an educator, a student, a parent, or a policymaker, or just someone who loves a compelling story, there's something here for you. And here are a few community activity ideas to bring Spare Parts to life. We can do STEM workshops for youth, hosting robotics or engineering demonstrations for students, and perhaps even the global award-winning Santa Cruz County of Education X-Robotics team, who just took third in the same competition, can come and join us. We can have panel discussions on immigration, education, and what it means to be American. We can have a book club and movie night. We can screen the 2015 film adaptation of Spare Parts and then hold a book-to-film discussion about what was gained, changed, or lost in translation. And of course, there'll be popcorn. We can do a Dreamers and Doers Youth Summit because I'm particularly excited about the possibility of celebrating local students who are making an impact in STEM and other fields. We can invite them to share their stories, inventions, or community projects, echoing the spirit of the book's heroes. Let's use this story to ignite our community's imagination, empathy, and action. Spare Parts reminds us that even with a little creativity, support, and heart, anything is possible, including building a world-class robots out of parts nobody wanted. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm June, and I'm so happy to introduce Orbital by Samantha Harvey, a slim lyrical novel that chronicles a day in the life of 6 astronauts as they circle the globe aboard the International Space Station. But it's no ordinary day. In just 24 hours, they experience 16 sunsets and 16 sunrises, monitor the growth of an enormous typhoon, conduct experiments, and follow a tight regimen to keep fit, preserve their internal clocks, combat loneliness, and stave off mission fatigue. From America, Russia, Italy, Britain, and Japan, 4 men and 2 women hurtle around the Earth at more than 17,000 miles an hour. As the world reels below them, it reveals itself in all its splendor. We learn minute details of life on the ISS, the claustrophobia of their tiny cabins. They sleep upright, hanging in a sack like a bat. They have to avoid crying because tears have to be vacuumed up. They're constantly congested, as food tastes like nothing. The book follows the thoughts and actions of each of the astronauts. Chie spends much of her time with the test mice, worried that they're not learning to operate in near weightless space. Roman, the captain, maintains his sanity by making lists. Today is his 434th day in space, a tally arrived at over 3 different missions. He keeps close count. Of this mission, it's day 88. In a single mission, there are roughly 540 hours of morning exercise, 4,320 sunrises, 36 Tuesdays, 540 times of having to swallow your toothpaste, 36 t-shirt changes, 54 clean pairs of socks. Let's hear what Samantha Harvey says as her book is announced as the winner of the Booker Prize, the Oscars of the literary world.
The winner of the Booker Prize 2024 is Samantha Harvey for Orbital.
I suppose it's fair to say that no Booker speech has ever been made in a perfect world, but it's hard to not acknowledge the imperfections of the world that we live in today. We are, as Carl Sagan said in his book Cosmos, the local embodiment of a consciousness grown to self-awareness. We are star stuff pondering the stars. And I would add that we are also earth stuff pondering the earth. And I think my novel is an exercise in that pondering. To look at the earth from space is a bit like a child looking into a mirror and realizing for the first time that the person in the mirror is herself. What we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. And what we do to life on earth, human and otherwise, we do to ourselves. Our loyalties, Sagan says, are to the species and to the planet. We need to speak for Earth, he says. I would like to dedicate this prize, therefore, to everybody who does speak for and not against the Earth, for and not against the dignity of other humans, other life, and all the people who speak for and call for and work for peace. This is for you. Thank you.
Samantha didn't mention what Orbital is not. It is not a sci-fi novel. Much of the action takes place in people's heads or in their dreams. The plot is driven by time, not by threats of aggression or scary space monsters. Her writing is luscious and poetic, a feast for the senses. It's almost spiritual. I'd like to read a passage from the beginning of the book. Rotating about the Earth in their spacecraft, they are so together and so alone that even their thoughts, their internal mythologies, at times convene. Sometimes they dream the same dreams, of fractals and blue spheres and familiar faces engulfed in dark, and of the bright, energetic black of space that slams their senses. Outside, the Earth reels away in a mass of moonglow, peeling backward as they forge towards its edgeless edge. The tufts of clouds across the Pacific brighten the nocturnal ocean to cobalt. On board the craft, it's Tuesday morning, 4:15, the beginning of October. Out there, it's Argentina. It's the South Atlantic. It's Cape Town. It's Zimbabwe. Over its right shoulder, the planet whispers morning, a slender molten breach of light. They slip through time zones in silence. They have each, at some point, been shot into the sky on a kerosene bomb, and then through the atmosphere in a burning capsule with the equivalent weight of 2 black bears upon them. They have each steeled their rib cages against the force until they felt the bears retreat, one after the other, and the sky becomes space, and gravity diminish, and their hair stand on end. Orbital is a love letter to the Earth. Its powerful themes of time, family relationships, community, bereavement, and gratitude, and our place in the cosmos spark loads of ideas for events. We could have an art workshop exploring the brilliant colors of the Earth seen from orbit, a spaceship-style dinner party, a concert performing the music of the spheres, a panel discussing the many science breakthroughs inspired by space technology, a film, maybe the National Geographic documentary about the ISS, a field trip to an observatory, and loads more. Oprah, the Chicago Tribune, and President Obama listed Orbital as a best book of 2023. It was shortlisted for the Ursula Le Guin Prize for Fiction and a finalist for the Orwell Prize. And it won the Booker Prize in 2024. I'm hoping we can add another award to its long list of honors, the selected book for the 2026 Our Community Reads. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Janser, and I'm here to make the case for the book All the Beauty in the World, The Metropolitan Museum of Art and Me by Patrick Bringley. When the author was a young man, he lost his brother to cancer. And this experience so affected him that he quit his job in a Manhattan high-rise, and he took a job as a security guard at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And he stayed there for about 10 years, and this book results from that. I'll let the author, Patrick Bringley, tell you about writing the book.
When I started as guard, I had no idea I would write a book, but I did think maybe I'd write something. So I would keep a notebook in my pocket, and I would keep note of funny things I overheard and of, interesting things that I noticed about an artwork or something. And maybe I'd try to write a art review from a guard's perspective, something like that. About 6 or 7 years into the job, I got the idea to write a book, but my first idea was to write a guard's guide to the Met. That's what I was calling it. And it would be, a bunch of information about the art, but sprinkled through things about the backstage. And I tried that, and it was just sort of a mess. Eventually, I realized, the world has a lot of guidebooks, and it has a lot of, anecdotes and factoids. But what there aren't a lot of books about is the experience of arts, what it feels like to be among this stuff, what draws people into a building like this in the first place, the sort of subjective, first-person experience of this art. And it occurred to me eventually, I could try to write something about that. But in order to write something subjective, you have to talk about the subject. You have to talk about yourself. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is going to have to be a memoir. And then that made it so, I would have to write about my brother and about the experience that brought me in here. And I would have to learn how to write a little bit like a novelist and write in scenes and things like that. And it was all a sort of, by degrees, it got more ambitious that way.
Now, I'm not an art expert, and I've never been to that museum, but I was so curious to read this book because what is it like to be a security guard at a museum like that? And the book absolutely delivered on that promise. He shared with us the training, the passageways they use to get between places, the colorful characters that are the museum guards, his interactions with the public, all of that. And he also described his experience with certain artworks that really resonated with him. And in fact, this book made me think differently about the role of art in our lives. So it's not just about being a museum guide, it's about how art connects us across time and space. It's also a book about grief and retreating from the world and returning to it. And a book about finding meaning and connection in ordinary, everyday work. One of my favorite passages from the book is about just that. I'm surprised by the meaning I begin to find in even small interactions with guards and visitors. A favor asked, an answer given, thanks proffered, welcomeness assured. There is a heartening rhythm to it that helps put me back in sync with the world. Grief is, among other things, a loss of rhythm. You lose someone, it puts a hole in your life, and for a time, you huddle down in that hole. In coming to the Met, I saw an opportunity to conflate my hole with a grand cathedral, to linger in a place that seemed untouched by the rhythms of the everyday. But those rhythms have found me, and their invitations are alluring. It turns out I don't wish to stay quiet and lonesome forever. In discovering the cadence with which I meet people, I feel as though I'm discovering the kind of grown-up I'll be. Most of the challenges I'll face in life are also little challenges I confront in daily interactions. Trying to be patient, trying to be kind, trying to enjoy others' peculiarities and make good use of my own, trying to be generous or at least humane, even when the situation is rote. A reviewer for the Washington Post describes the book like this: a beautiful tale about beauty. It is also a tale about grief, balancing solitude and comradeship, and finding joy in both the exalted and the mundane. With so many themes, we can find a rich variety of programming to do around this book. The book describes all kinds of artworks, so we can tap into our local artist communities of painters, photographers, sculptors, as well as quilters and glass blowers. The possibilities are endless. We can do artist studio visits. We could do a field trip to an outdoor art installation. We can do a slow looking session where we spend time silently observing art without trying to make sense of it, and then share our experiences in writing and prose poetry. We can explore other non-art themes as well. We could do visits to unusual museums like the Surfing Museum or the Bigfoot Museum. We could hear from art therapists about how they use that and what its applications are. We might have a panel of people who work with the public in interesting capacities, like docents or park rangers, and hear some of their stories. And we could watch a documentary about an art heist and tune in on the security part of the equation. When this book was published in 2023, it was named one of the best books of the year by all kinds of institutions, including the New York Public Library, the Financial Times, the New York Post. They loved it. I loved it. I really think you'll enjoy it. And I know that if we all select All the Beauty in the World, we'll arrange some fantastic programming around it.
Hello, I'm Ofelia Garcia. All life on Earth began in the sea. The origins of life and the evolution of nervous systems, of brains, and what we call mind, it all began in the ocean. Are you delighted to live so near Monterey Bay? Are you fascinated by its marine life? Are you intelligent? What do you think makes a being intelligent? According to David Scheel, the key elements of intelligence are 3: curiosity, persistence, and flexibility. Guess who demonstrates all 3 of these characteristics? The key player in the book I'm excited to present to you, Many Things Under a Rock, by David Scheel, professor of marine biology at Alaska Pacific University in Anchorage. It's available in 2 editions, and one is for young adults. This book takes the reader on a most interesting journey about the life and behavior of octopuses, one of the world's most unusual and intriguing animals. Let's watch the author, David Scheel, pique your interest.
And the unique evolutionary journey of the octopus, come on, Heidi, makes this intelligence particularly intriguing. For a start, the intelligence of an octopus is not just gathered as one lump in its head, like it is with us. Parts of the octopus intelligence are distributed in its arms.
And that means that, to some extent, the body can be its own controller, rather than having a body being driven entirely around by the brain.
8 arms, independently gathering data and reacting to the world around them. All kinds of intelligence require feedback.
I think that's why humans are intelligent, is because you don't know, you try, and you learn from your errors. So trial and error is really the intelligent thing.
And octopuses make trial and error do more than you might expect.
Now, here's a brief excerpt from the book and a clue to its title. Octopuses are finicky about where they live. The shores of Prince William Sound and its underwater slopes are littered with rocks piled up on top of sand or mud or more rocks. Octopuses most often choose boulders resting on mud, sand, or gravel, any of which they can readily dig into to make a cavity beneath the boulder. The excavated materials form a berm around the opening to the den. Having found or constructed a suitable den, octopuses tend to return home each day to the same hole. If a resident moves out or is killed, another octopus may soon move in, so that over the years and decades, the same holes turn up occupied again and again. Octopuses build a back door or a minor entrance that looks less used than the front door. These dens are wonderful hiding places. When tides submerge the dens, the underwater residents sit outside their dens, on the porch as it were, and watch the world go by, perhaps waiting to see crabs or other prey creeping through the kelp or eelgrass just outside. In need of peace or safety, the octopus can slip inside. Homes, the dens of octopuses, were the easiest way to find and count these elusive beasts. My key into their world would be through their front doors. Alaska Native stories use similar but not identical words for octopus. The Eyak language, the word for octopus is rock under many dwell, or many things under a rock. A wonderfully descriptive word, as the 8 arms of a single octopus might properly be regarded as many things. Here's what some reviewers have to say about this book. This book is mind-blowing and soul-expanding. You'll be thinking about and talking about many things under a rock for a long time. The author shares knowledge and stories from indigenous cultures regarding the lives of octopuses. Indigenous science seeks not only to understand, but also to respect people and the natural world. Our selection group came up with a large list of themes for potential events for Many Things Under a Rock if it were selected for the 2026 season of our community reads. Here are some of them. Docent-led explorations of our local tide pools and our own intertidal habitats. Events at Seymour Marine Discovery Center and at UCSC's Long Marine Lab. Presentations and discussion of several outstanding films and documentaries. Learning about indigenous peoples' science. Learning about the evolutionary tree of life, its origins in the sea, the origins of consciousness, and the nature of intelligence. A presentation by the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute about the octopus garden in our very own Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Did you know that was there? It is the largest octopus nursery on the planet. Learning more about our own kelp forest, its marine life and vulnerable ecosystems, and what we can do to care for the health of this critical and vulnerable environment. Many Things Under a Rock is rich in themes that will appeal to all ages. It will definitely captivate and enthrall you, and I encourage you to vote for Many Things Under a Rock for the 2026 season of our community reads.